Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. Last week, I had the privilege of going and attending PAX Prime 2015, and I wanted to go and share some of my thoughts about the video games I was able to go and see and play with you through a series of video logs that I'm going to go and be doing. So I'm going to go and break this up by the days that I went and attended PAX. So that being the case, let's get cooking with day one. So day one actually wasn't a PAX Prime day specifically. It was actually an event that Microsoft went and put on that was a Pre-PAX show. So it was ID at Xbox Pre-PAX. Well, that's basically what it was. It's an ID at Xbox Pre-PAX show that Microsoft went and put on at Microsoft's own campus in Redmond. Beautiful, beautiful place, by the way. So this was completely hosted by Xbox in their rather by Microsoft in their own building, and they had two rather large meeting rooms that were going and displaying around 50 various indie titles that were part of the ID at Xbox, as well as going and having a number of stations going and demoing Halo 5 as well. So I'm not actually the biggest Xbox fan, but I definitely was interested in going and checking out the indies, so I decided to go and make the time to go, and I am actually really, really happy that I did. It was a great event, so thank you so much, Microsoft, for going and putting on what was a great, fun way to go and kind of ease into the whole PAX feeling. There were just a great number of games set up. They all had collectible pins that you could go and get for going and playing the titles, which was great. The developers for most of the games were at least some developers or somebody who go and representing the development team were going present for most of the titles, and that's got to be hands down one of my favorite parts about going and attending PAX is the indies. That's what it's all about. I don't really go and care nearly as much about those big studio titles, the AAAs and whatnot. What I go and care about, especially at an event like PAX, are the smaller indie developers. Is that there you go and get to go and actually touch base one-on-one with the people that go and make the game, and it's a wonderful feeling. The enthusiasm that they go and show for their creations is so incredible, so infectious. You just can't help but go and fall in love with the game just because of how much energy they're going and putting into what they're going and doing. It's a wonderful experience. If you haven't had a chance to go to PAX, I would definitely go and recommend going and trying to get to one, especially with them going and having 3 shows in the United States and the one in Australia. There's all these chances to be able to go to one. But admittedly, this wasn't a PAX, but it was a great pre-PAX show. So I went and started out the night by going and waiting in line for the really super stylistic, interesting Cuphead. I'm assuming that you've gone and seen some coverage of Cuphead. It's definitely one of those indies that's on the horizon that's garnered a lot of attention, largely due to its really unique art style. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Cuphead is product of Studio MDHR, and it's it's a shoot 'em up, either run and gun or actual straight up shoot 'em up, in terms of some of the stages were along those lines. That's done in the style of a 1930s cartoon, and they went and captured that look and that feel so perfectly. It's almost makes you question, am I going and playing a video game, or am I going and watching one of these old time cartoons? The line was actually quite long, so myself and my girlfriend went and waited quite a while to go and get to the front of that. But once we went and did, it was a lot of fun going and just playing through that. Although I have to go and say, Cuphead, hard as friggin' nails. That game is brutally, brutally difficult, at least in its current form. The demo itself, when consisted of small tutorial and then a series of boss stages going and ranging from easy to some of the harder bosses in the game. So you could kind of get a feel for that. It didn't go and have any of the what's going to go and be the intermediate stage gameplay in there, but it was a pretty good idea. It gave you kind of a feel of the game, and that's one thing about these trade shows or that you like, or conventions. The thing about them is, at most, you only have like 5-10 minutes to go and give the gamer an impression of your game, and that's a difficult thing to go and do with some titles because of how in depth your mechanics might happen to go and be. And there definitely was some times and some games on the show floor at PAX itself that I felt didn't do a very good job of that, or were maybe a little bit too complex for what you're trying to go and accomplish in the scope of a convention like that. But the Cuphead demo was really well put together. It was definitely a lot of fun. The base mechanics were simplistic enough, but we had the option of going and having two weapons. There was like a short range kind of spread weapon, spread shotgun, and then a longer range but weaker beam laser that was relatively effective. Unfortunately, I went and tried to go and play in what's like commonly my style, where I go and get up in the face of the enemy and try and go and do as much damage as I could, and not being familiar with the patterns of the enemies, that definitely worked against me. But for the most part, it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed getting to go and try out Cuphead. It's definitely one that, whether you have an Xbox or if you're just looking to go and play on PC when it finally goes and comes out, keep that one on your radar. It'll definitely go and be one to go and look forward to. After Cuphead, we went and moved on to a title called Gunsport. So this one was just one that we happened to be going by. There happened to be no line at the time, and it kind of looked interesting. It has a cyberpunk futuristic vibe to it, and the whole point of the game is that it's kind of like a futuristic volleyball with guns. So you're going and you've got two team members on both sides, a keeper that can't go move but usually goes and has a more variable shot, and a striker whose goals try and who can move around the stage and is trying to go and hit the ball that you're going and shooting back and forth into these goals at different levels on either side of the screen, depending on which team you're on. It was a lot of fun, but there was like a lot of interesting back and forth. It's one where I think you would definitely be best off with 4 human players. So if you're going and playing with AI or whatnot, I think it would definitely go and be a discredit to the title itself. But it was a lot of fun with 4 humans. So, and that goes and brings me to another point that I was going to go and mention. One thing that I definitely noticed about not necessarily all of them, but the vast majority of the games at the ID at Xbox event, they were mostly multiplayer experiences. Couch co-op has gone and come back in a big way, like thanks to, of course, like Super Smash, but also titles like Towerfall and, well, all the ones along those lines, and they're really, really popular at the moment. There were so many of them that are going and coming out, some that I've gone and played already that I go and love, like just have to go and throw out there speedrunners. If you haven't had a chance to go and play Tiny Build speedrunners, I definitely recommend going and giving that one a shot. That, especially if you can go and play a couch co-op, but even if you're going playing it online with friends, that one is a great multiplayer experience. But anyway, I digress. Going and moving on, the next title that we went and got to go and play after that is one that's actually going and coming out here in about a week, and I'm going and really looking forward to going and actually picking that up and going and playing a lot more of it. And that's Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time is kind of a little bit of a procedurally generated co-op space shooter player experience. I go and say space shooter, but it's definitely kind of tricky to go and term it that way. Throughout the course of, or rather, in Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, you've got this like spherical spaceship that has all these different stations through it, and in order to go and use those particular stations, they actually have to go and be manned. But the trick is, it's only 2-player, either you and an AI or you and a co-op partner. And so the trick is that you can, like, between you and your co-op partner, you can only go and be in so many places at once. So what roles are you going to go and take? Are you going to go and have, like, somebody's going to have to be going and steering the ship at least part of the time, but then you also have to go and have somebody going and, like, manning the shields, somebody going and handling the guns, somebody going and handling the radar to go and figure out where you're even going. There's all these different, like, elements of how to go and, like, play. And especially when you go and get into an area where you have a lot of enemies, or you're trying to go and navigate through some tight corridors that also happen to go and have some environmental effects that you have to go and be defending against, it's definitely manic, to go and say the very least, depending on which roles you're going and taking. And even if you're the ones going and steering the ship, and it can definitely go and be something that could go and, like, test your skill and especially the teamwork of the team that's involved. But it's one that I'm really going and looking forward to, and I had a lot of fun with just the little bit of the demo that I got to go and play. And it's got a really cute kind of bright pastel neon-y color scheme to it as well. So that's Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, and it's releasing on Steam and Xbox One next week, September 9th. So definitely look forward to that one as well. I'll definitely go and be doing some more coverage on that one when it goes and comes out also. So look forward to that. Moving on was another one that I'll definitely be covering when it goes and comes out, Pixel Galaxy. So Pixel Galaxy, you start out as a pixel, and all the enemies that are going and coming at you as well, with the exception of bosses, are also pixels. The trick is that, like Katamari Damacy, you're trying to go and roll or, like, combine all these pixels up or with yourself, and depending on the pixels that you go and collect, they have different abilities. Some go and shoot, like, straight, some shoot diagonally, some have beam swords, some have speed up, some have these, like, almost shot shields. And so you're going in, like, Katamariing all these other pixels onto you, and you're going to make yourself stronger and stronger. But if you're not careful, it's also very easy to go and get these pixels blown off of you. Then after you've gone and survived and, like, rolled up all these other pixels, then you go and have these boss battles that you have to go and like, defeat. And it was a lot of fun, and it's totally one of those shoot 'em up experiences that I go and love. So I'm really, really looking forward to going and covering some of that when it goes and comes out, and going and sharing that with you. And so when I believe its Steam release is actually set for September as well, so that's not that far off. Go ahead and, like, be looking forward to that when it goes and comes out. And then the last one that we went and played was Just Shapes and Beats. Which was a really kind of more minimalistic rhythm game. So you're basically just a shape, and you're trying to go and avoid all these enemy shots and, like, beams and lasers that are all going and pulsing and moving to the particular beat or rhythm or, like, music that's going and playing in the game itself. And you yourself, all you can really go and do is just move around and then dash, and you're vulnerable when you're dashing, and you're just trying to go and survive to the end of the song. It was a lot of fun, but especially once we got to the boss level, that one was rather difficult, and we weren't able to go and clear it, but it was still an enjoyable time, and definitely really notable. So if you're looking, or if you're into, and that one's yet another one that was a 4-player experience, so it was a lot of fun 4-player, and there are advantages, disadvantages to go and playing 4-player. You have the ability to go and, actually, I'm not sure if there would be any disadvantages to that one, because you have the ability to go and raise your teammates if they happen to go and take a fatal hit. So maybe the more players you have, the better survivability you go and have. But that one was a lot of fun to go and play as well, and I'm definitely looking forward to going and seeing how that one comes along and what it goes and looks like in its final form. And so there we go and have it. Those were the 5 titles primarily that I went and checked out at the ID at Xbox pre-PAX party. It was definitely a lot of fun. Like I said, it was a great show. I think Microsoft did a wonderful thing by going and putting that on. And so it definitely set the tone for a great PAX weekend, or at least so I felt. And I had a lot of fun going and getting to go and play those titles and going and interacting with the devs as well. Didn't have the chance to go and really talk to the Cuphead developer because, well, the Cuphead booth was definitely one of the most mobbed in the entire show floor, but still, it was a lot of fun, and I really hope Microsoft goes and makes this a tradition. It would be great to be able to go and experience that kind of stuff more in the future, but if not, and if it was just a one-time event, once again, thank you Microsoft so much for going and putting it on. Alright, that'll go and wrap up my thoughts for day 1. I'll go and be back with my thoughts for day 2, which is actually the first day of PAX here in just a bit. So I want to go and thank you so much for going and stopping by and watching my video. And as always, I'll go and see you again next time.